Shalom, this is Darla Wright. I thought I would give you some thoughts I was having about this total lunar eclipse, kind of out of nowhere. I didn't hear about it too much before, but of course, if we look, we can find out information. We just have to go searching for it. But it started coming out and around that, hey, we're about to have a lunar eclipse right here at the time of the election. I think that's kind of interesting. Turns out, though, there was one 6 months ago and one about 6 months before that. So thought we'd look at that. I had some thoughts about the next total lunar eclipse as well. So I thought I would share that. I also have some notes here that I've written down that are notes from the Talmud. And I have this, I keep it in my scriptures here at Yoel chapter 3 here. I have a note actually. I was looking for this. I have it written, and it's hard to find something if you got a note somewhere, just one page. But I ran over into Yahoo, which is Matthew 24. Verse 25 here, it says, and immediately after the distress of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from the Shamayim, and the powers of the Shamayim shall be shaken. And my note here says dark moon, Isaiah 13:10, and Joel 2, verse 10, and 3, verse 15. And I have a footnote here, see notes written at the end of Joel. So I found that first when I was looking for this. I couldn't find it just flipping through. But here's my notes at the end of Joel or Yoel. The Talmud Sukkah 29a, Rabbi Meir said, whenever the luminaries are in eclipse, it is a bad omen for Yasharel. Our rabbis taught when the sun is in eclipse, it is a bad omen for idolaters, those that are in idolatry. That's a solar eclipse. When Labana, which is the moon, Laban being white, Labana, when in the moon, that's the full moon, is in eclipse, it is a bad omen for Yasharel, since Yasharel reckons by Labana, the moon, and idolaters by the sun. Okay. Well, so the lunisolar calendar is for Yahuwah's people. It's covenant calendar. It's not Rome's calendar. So if you're on Rome's calendar, then the solar eclipse would be the one that would be an omen for you. And for those that are on the lunisolar calendar, the Hebrews, those who have restored the calendar understanding, and they're keeping a Shabbat according to the moon is the one they're looking for. This is what this is saying. So the moon is the bad omen for them. So it's saying it is a bad omen. If its face is red as blood, it is a sign that the sword is coming to the world. If it is like sackcloth, like black, the arrows of famine are coming to the world. If it resembles both red and black, the sword and arrows of famine are coming to the world. If the eclipse is at sunset, calamity will tarry in its coming. If it is at dawn, it hastens on its way. But some say the order is to be reversed. So some say, well, it's actually the opposite. If it's at sunset, it will be quick. And if it's at dawn, it'll tarry. So some say it's one way and some say it's the other. And there is no nation which is smitten that its mighty ones are not smitten together with it. So there's a smiting happening. That's what the Talmud is saying about an eclipse. So no nation which is smitten that its mighty ones are not smitten together with it. As it is said, and against all the deities of Mitzrayim, that's Egypt, I will execute judgments. But when Yasharel, or Israel, fulfill the will of the omnipresent, when we fulfill his will, they need have no fear of all these omens. Yahuwah said, learn not the way of the Goyim, the Gentiles, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. So here it's saying, when Yasharel fulfills the will of the omnipresent of Yahuwah, they don't need to fear this sign. The idolaters will be dismayed, but Yasharel will not be dismayed. We've also got verse 10 here of Joel 2. The earth shall tremble before them, the Shamayim shall shake, sun and moon shall be darkened, and the stars withdraw their brightness. I'm obviously not taking this all in context of this prophecy here, but just reading the verses. So I'm in verse 31 now. The sun is turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yahuwah. So there is a timing when there will be lunar eclipse and solar eclipse, and they will be before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yahuwah. And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah shall be delivered. Okay, so there's that. Call on the name of Yahuwah. That's just so easy. We need to check our hearts if we have got a problem calling on the name of Yahuwah. This is the Hebrew name. This is the name found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is the name that is preserved in so many ancient places. We need to be able to call on the name of Yahuwah and let go of the other pagan deity names that we've learned. And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yahuwah shall be delivered. For on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be an escape, as Yahuwah has said, and among the remnant whom Yahuwah calls. So they're calling on the name of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah is calling on them. He calls them. Very awesome. And so again, we have Joel 2, verse 10, 31 and 32, Matthew 24:29, which I read, and then Isaiah 13:10, which I will read now. For the stars of the Shamayim and their constellations do not give off their light, the sun shall be dark at its rising, and the moon not send out its light. The next verse is, and I shall punish the world for its evil and the wicked for their wickedness, and shall put an end to the arrogance of the proud and lay low the pride of the ruthless. It appears to be that a dark moon or that a solar eclipse, either one of those, that there is a punishment for evil and wickedness attached to that. Not trying to put out fear or any of that sort of thing, because Yahuwah always makes a way. He makes a way for those who want a way. It's in his word. We just have to read it and do it and be in allegiance, alliance with him. So on the Hebrew calendar, we're going from daybreak to daybreak to daybreak. Judaism, they do evening to evening to evening, but on the restored Hebrew calendar from the scriptures, the day begins at daybreak. So it's still within the 24-hour period. It is still that until the next daybreak. It's not like on the Roman calendar, which ends one day at midnight and then starts another day. You can see how confusing it all is whenever people are going to start their day. Depends on what calendar they're on, and most people are on Rome's calendar. And this is the last time that there's going to be a total lunar eclipse until March 14, 2025. Every new year begins with the new moon closest to the spring equinox, which is generally March 20. It could be March 19, but generally it's March 20. So the new moon closest to that. Well, March 14 is going to be roughly full moon time. It's going to be 13, 14, 15, right in there is when the total lunar eclipses happen. I know that the new year's got to start by March 7th. The new moon has got to be by March 7th, or they have to add another month. March 14 full moon is not a March 7 new moon. A March 14 full moon means February 28 or March 1. And then that's too soon for it to be the new year. So it's not in the first month. It's going to be in the Adar Bet month, which will be a 13th month. We'll have a full moon around March 14. And so it's the last new moon of the year before there's a new year starting on the Hebrew calendar, on Yahuwah's calendar. That is the time of Esther. So if you've read the book of Esther, you're familiar with the book of Esther. There's a beautiful movie. It's free to watch, I believe, through YouTube. It's called One Night with the King. It's such a beautiful movie about the story of Esther, if you haven't seen it. A real romance, king and queen, prince and princess kind of a story. However, there's also a whole people that is saved from annihilation, from genocide in this story. And so that moon that is in the middle of the last month, right before the new year, it would commemorate or cause one to remember the story of Esther. If they're paying attention, if they're thinking about these things, if they're aware of the calendar, this is the last month. And this is the month that the people were saved from genocide, from certain annihilation. And so that will be a remembrance when it turns red. But there's also something to be said about wickedness being punished. And those that are walking righteousness don't have to fear any of that. But the wicked ones, they need to be in fear because they're dealing with a righteous Elohim who's about had enough, I think. We won't see another total lunar eclipse until March 14, 2025. When we see it at that time, it's a reminder that the annihilation was prevented. The genocide was halted. It was stopped in its tracks. war of the people was allowed to preserve their lives. I just think that's kind of interesting. So I went over to Wikipedia and I was looking for a list of lunar eclipses in the 21st century. There are signs in the heavens. We don't necessarily know what they mean or what they are implying, but they are very interesting to look at some of the facts that we've seen about the total lunar eclipses and the total solar eclipses as well. So here we have lunar eclipses, just the 21st century. I thought it was interesting to look at these. Interesting to me that they're about every 6 months apart. And for these total ones, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 3 in a row, 6 months apart. And then they sort of continue with this kind of a 6-month pattern. So these were January and July for the most part. December 30, I mean, that's pretty close to January, right? Then we get to May to November, May, and then this October 28, well, that's almost November. I think that's just interesting. Another 6 months, another 6 months, another 6 months. And then 2009, now we've got December, June, December. And then another in June. November 28, it's almost December. May 25, almost June. So roughly 6 months apart. I think it's kind of interesting. Then we have the tetrad. These fell on the feast days on the Hebrew calendar, on Yahuwah's feast days, which in Leviticus 23 tells us these are Yahuwah's feast days: Passover, Sukkot, Passover, Sukkot. Month 1, month 7, month 1, month 7. This is the one partial, but it went across the whole United States. And you see January, July, January again, and then July, and then January, then July. So every 6 months. I think it's interesting. And then we get to last year and this year. Got May, November, May, November, total, partial, total, total. And then back to May and almost November again. This is the one we're at now. And so they are telling us there will be these partial ones, penumbral and partial, in 2023 and 2024, but total, we won't have another total one until March 2025. And then we have one September 2025, and then another one in March 2026. This one again, this is not going to be in the new year. So this will be the end of one year, and this is the end of the year before it. There's a foursome here. April 25 of 2032 begins it. April, October, April, October. Again, this is too late. April 25 is too late for this to be on the Passover time. So this is not going to be a Passover Sukkot, Passover Sukkot. I can see that because this would have to say March 25 in order to line up with the Passover time. It's too far outside of the March 20 equinox. I also heard tonight
tomorrow's very important, even critical election. And I would say, in the strongest way, it's a country-saving election. I'm going to be making a very big announcement on Tuesday, November 15th at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay, so this was also announced tonight. I think that's interesting that this was announced. I think it's interesting, this particular graph. It has a midpoint for 1/5/2015 down this way. No other tetrad in history from 3000 BC to 2013, 2014, 2015 AD displays this perfect symmetry. So they've got a symmetry here from 2010 to 1/21/19. Well, we're well beyond 1/21/19, but this was an interesting graph. So I thought I would bring it up. I wasn't sure if it had anything past this point, but no. 1/21/19 is as far out as this goes. The other thing I thought I would look, so this is talking about an astrologer. It says in Donald Trump's case, he was born under a South Node lunar eclipse in Sagittarius in his 4th house. Point being is that he was born during the time of a lunar eclipse. And there are a lot of other interesting numbers that have been involved with his presidency, times and numbers and coincidences and things like that. I think that's pretty cool. Trump was born on a blood moon. Australian pastor points to prophecy being fulfilled. Australian pastor Steve Kokalani says there's a direct connection between President Donald Trump and signs in the heavens that are referred to as blood moons. He points out that Trump was born in 1946 during a blood moon, and the latest blood moon on January 2019, that's like on that chart we just looked at, came at the midpoint of Trump's first term in office. So see, there's similarities, coincidences. Then there was a super blue blood moon over Jerusalem the day after Trump's first State of the Union address. Coincidence? Kokalani says there's a higher power at work. So he explains these blood moons thoroughly. He discussed the prophetic connection between Trump and these blood moons with Stephen Strang in a recent episode of the Strang Report on the Charisma Podcast Network. And of course, this was 2019. Pastor Kokalani explained how when Elohim wants to confirm something, he uses signs. The Star of Bethlehem is a well-known example. Of course it is. And the blood moons are referred to in several places in the scriptures. We read many of these here. For example, Revelation 6 verse 12 talks about the end times when the whole moon turned blood red. And Acts 2 verse 20 cites the prophetic book of Joel saying, the sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and esteemed day of Yahuwah. We saw that it said Yahuwah when I was reading it out of the Hallelujah Scriptures. Kokalani goes on to say Donald Trump was born on Friday, the 14th of June, 1946. And on that night, there happened to be a blood moon, which is a term for a total lunar eclipse. Another blood moon, the 10th and final in the series that occurred at the midpoint of his first term as president. So I'm at the one in 2019. The pastor told Strang during the podcast that happened on the night of the 20th to the 21st of January 2019. So it's halfway through his presidency, the first 4 years. They're symmetric, they fall on feast days, and they keep pointing to Trump. Well, I don't know about a feast day being on the 20th or 21st of January. It could have been a Shabbat, I don't know, without looking at a calendar, going back and looking at it. But from Sukkot, the end of Sukkot, the Shemini Atzeret, the 8th great day there, we don't have another feast except for the occasion of Hanukkah during the 9th month, 25th day to the 10th month, about the 3rd day. That's the 8 days of Hanukkah. They are well before January 20th, 21st. So that is not a feast. They're symmetric. They fall on feast days. No. And they keep pointing Trump. No, the one that happened on his birthday was not on a feast day. I just went through the math and did it. And no, there is no feast day on June 14, 1946, unless it happens to just be a Shabbat. There's no one of the main 7 feasts. No, that isn't there on June 14 at a full moon. Not there. And it's also not there the 20th or 21st of January 2019. But he was born during a blood moon. I think that's interesting. I think we live in very interesting times. I think there are politicians that need to be retired out of Washington, out of state government, that are lining their pockets, and they are making deals with death, and they are not standing for righteousness, and they need to go. The wicked are going to be judged. It's in his word. That's what his word says. And when the wickedness gets full up, there's a fullness, a completeness of the Gentiles. Then we have that day of Yahuwah coming. So I'm reading in Ezekiel 9. We are up to watch for the blood moon tonight. And tomorrow is for voting for the nation of the United States. So I just think it's significant. He announced he's going to make an announcement, and everybody feels certain that is that he's going to run for presidency. I have my feelings about what this current resident in the White House, why he's there. I'm not going to tell you what that reason is, but it's very grim. And when he's done, somebody else will step in there, and the grimness will be a reality that we all know by then. We'll all know what it was about. We'll all have experienced what happened during this 4 years. I've got a feeling about it. Famine's coming, war's coming. These are the things that this blood moon is going to be announcing. According to Talmud sages, that's what it announces. Remember, this isn't about bringing up fear for anybody. We don't know what signs mean until we study them. What happened since the last sign? Did anything happen? The last one was in May. What happened since May? What happened since the last one before that? we just need to look at these things. After the sign, what happened after it? Then what did it mean? And the scriptures tell us there is an indication that there is judgment coming for the wicked. So we're going to read Ezekiel 9. In the verse before it, it says, "Therefore I shall indeed deal in wrath. My eyes shall not pardon, nor would I spare. And they shall cry in my ears with a loud voice, but I shall not hear them." Ezekiel 9, "And he called out in my hearing with a loud voice, saying, Let the punishers of the city draw near, each with his weapon of destruction in his hand. And look, 6 men came from the direction of the upper gate, which faces north, each with his battle axe in his hand. And one man in their midst was clothed with linen and had a writer's inkhorn at his side. And they came in and stood beside the bronze altar. And the esteem of the Elohim of Yasharel went up from the cherub, where it had been, to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, who had the writer's inkhorn at his side. And Yahuwah said to him, Pass on into the midst of the city, into the midst of Jerusalem, and you shall put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and cry over all the abominations that are done within it. This is a sighing and crying. And to the others he said in my hearing, Pass on into the city after him, and smite. Do not let your eye pardon nor spare. Slay to destruction old, young men, maidens, and children and women, but do not come near anyone upon whom is the mark, and begin at my kadosh place. So they began with the elders who were in front of the house. And he said to them, Defile the house and fill the courts with the slain. Go out. And they went out and smote in the city. And as they were smiting them, it came to be that I alone was left. And I fell on my face and cried out and said, Ah, Master Yahuwah, are you destroying all the remnant of Yasharel and pouring out your wrath on Jerusalem? And he said to me, The crookedness of the house of Yasharel and Yehuda is exceedingly great, and the land is filled with bloodshed, and the city filled with that which is warped. For they say Yahuwah has forsaken the land, and Yahuwah is not seeing. But as for me, my eye shall not pardon, nor would I spare. I shall recompense their deeds on their own head. And see, the man clothed with linen, who had the inkhorn at his side, reported back and said, I have done as you commanded me. We need to be very sober. We need to be very sober-minded. We're under an almighty, righteous Elohim that does not tolerate wickedness. He will not tolerate it. You see it right here, what he says is going to happen. In this particular case, it was about Jerusalem, but it's going forth. It's going forth. We need to be in prayer for righteousness. We need to do what we can to bring righteousness in our own circles of influence. We need to stand for righteousness. We need to stand for Yahuwah's rightness, his word. We need to be in covenant with him. We need to be aligned, alleged to him, bound to him. Bind yourself to Yahuwah. Be a living sacrifice. Serve Yahuwah. Serve Yahuwah. It's the only way to get it right. We can't do it for ourselves. We can't do it in our own selves and our own strength and our own way of thinking, well, this is good, this is okay. The word good isn't even okay. The sound good in Hebrew is a word that means to fall upon, to attack for the purpose of taking what belongs to another. In other words, their goods, what they stand to lose from someone mightier than them. We need to be bound to Yahuwah. He's the mighty one. He's the mighty one that we need to be bound to. He's the overcomer that overcomes all other overcomers. He's going to put all of this wickedness down. He's going to put all of the pagan mighty ones that we can't see with our eye, but we can feel them. We can sense that evil coming in. It's been coming in. We've had some things come in over the last couple of years. They are not separate from each other. They are connected. Evil begets evil. And what's going on in the spirit becomes manifest in the physical. Seek Yahuwah. Seek his feast. They're in Leviticus 23. You are not going to find Halloween there. You're not going to find Christmas and the baby Jesus there. Okay? That didn't happen in December. Oh, it is the birthday of a mighty one, a pagan deity. It's the sun deity. Okay? You have to question everything, and we have to get back to the book. We have to get back to the book. from Genesis to Revelation. It's not just this little section at the back of the book, okay? It's not this little bit. It's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. The whole thing is Yahuwah's word. We have to know the front of the book before we can know what the back of the book is really all about. And the front of the book talks about an everlasting covenant long before Yeshua got here. Okay? I'm going to call him Yeshua so you can kind of relate to that. But his whole name is Yahushua. Yahuwah, Yahushua. Yahuwah, Yahushua. One is the Father, one is the Son. Yahuwah, Yahushua. No Valentine's Day, no Easter, no bunny rabbits, no Easter basket for the kids. Think of it for the kids. None of that. That's not what it's about. What the word says is we're supposed to teach our children the Torah. Have you taught your children the Torah? Are you holding yourself to the Torah? Do your children know where you stand with Yahuwah? Because they need to know. They need to see you walking the word, the walk in the walk. And not talk in the talk, but walk in the walk. They need to hear you talk it too. They need to hear you speak the word of Yahuwah. They need to hear you praying. They need to hear you bringing your problems to Yahuwah. And they need the opportunity to see that Yahuwah answered your prayers. He heard you and he answered you. Are your children seeing that? When they have a problem, do you tell them to pray? And then when they think, okay, well, I got to work something else out, are you telling them to stand and see the salvation of Yahuwah? That he's going to bring the answer? He's going to bring the answered prayer to you? These are the things that we have to do for our children. We need to do it. We are doing them a great disservice, a horrible disservice, if we allow that chain link to be broken. And once it has been broken by some generation in the past, because they broke it, 10 northern tribes kicked out of the land of Israel, right? For idolatry. Idolatry, hello. Christmas used to be illegal in this nation. Illegal. Let's do it just for the kids. No. Let's do righteousness for Yahuwah. And let the chips fall where they may. We have to do it that way. We need to be righteous before a righteous living Elohim who's going to pour out judgment on this earth. We all know it. We can feel it. It's coming down the pike. For the last 2 years, we've known we're from here and we're going to Revelation 22. That's not changed. We turned a new corner, didn't we? There's a mighty, righteous Elohim with whom we have to do. We have to regard. We need to be obedient to. We need to love him. He loves us. He provides for us. He cares for us. He makes certain to protect us and to avenge us as needed. He secures our place in his heritage that he has for us. But we need to not just throw that in the muck. We need to not be a self-will run riot. We need to not be self-destructive, because this is self-destructive behavior that we are seeing on this earth. We need to be righteous before Yahuwah. We need to be able to look up in the heavens and watch the total lunar eclipse with excitement, because Yahuwah is in control. Hallelujah. Yahuwah is in control, and he's going to do something about it. Oh, we could ignore the sages in the Talmud. Yes, the Talmud's got some issues, but we might just glean from them. Some of the people that wrote were aligned and bound to Yahuwah, and they know a little more than we do. And we can at least glean from what they said. We could glean from Balaam. Numbers 24. So I have a note here on verse 1. Balaam was a sorcerer. Divination, enchantment, a foretelling of future events, or discovering things secret or obscure by the aid of superior beings or by other than human means. Enchant, to give efficacy to anything by songs of sorcery or fascination, to subdue by charms or spells, to delight to the highest degree, to charm, to ravish with pleasure, sorcery, magic, enchantment, witchcraft, divination. We see a lot of these things today, right? Poured out sorcery, divination by the assistance or supposed assistance of evil spirits, the power of commending evil spirits, the use of drugs, whether simple or potent, generally accompanied by incantations and appeals to occult powers, with the provision of various and charming amulets, etc., professedly designed to keep the applicant or patient from the attention and power of demons, but actually to impress the applicant with the mysterious resources and powers of the sorcerer. The use or the administering of drugs, poisoning, sorcery, magical arts, often found in connection with idolatry and fostered by it, the deceptions and seductions of idolatry. Magic, the art or science of putting into action the power of spirits, or the science of producing wonderful effects by the aid of superhuman beings or of departed spirits. Sorcery, enchantment. Okay, so that's that Balaam guy, right? But Yahuwah said, you say only the words I tell you to say. He says in verse 13, what Yahuwah speaks, that I speak. And now see, I'm going to my people. Come, let me advise you what this people is going to do to your people in the latter days. Would you say we're in the latter days? I believe we're in the latter days. So he says, let me advise you what this people is going to do to your people. He's talking about the 12 tribes of Israel, what they're going to do to your people, Balak. And he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, the son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are opened, the saying of him who hears the words of El and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of El Shaddai, who falls down with eyes open wide. So see here, this guy he has opened the door to all kinds of demons, likely through sorcery, magic, enchantments, drugs. He was sought out for his magic, but Yahuwah gave him the words to say in this instance. 3 different times he's been taken to a different location to curse the children of Israel, the 12 tribes. But he says, I'm going to tell you what I see. He says, I see him, but not now. I observe him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Yasharel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and shall destroy all the sons of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession, and Seir shall be a possession. Enemies, and Yasharel is doing mightily. And a ruler shall come from Jacob, and destroy the remnant from Ar. He then looked on Amalek, and he took up his proverb and said, Amalek was first among the nations, but his latter end is to perish forever. He then looked on the Canaanites, and he took up his proverb and said, firm is your dwelling place, and your nest is placed in the rock. But Cain is to be burned. Cain and Abel, that's who Cain is. Cain is to be burned. Till when does Asher keep you captive? And he took up his proverb and said, oh, who lives when El does this? And ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, and they shall afflict Asher and afflict Aber, and so shall Amalek, and he also perishes. And Balaam arose and left and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way. So he saw, I see him, but not now. I observe him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Yasharel. He saw a star coming out. I think it's awesome to be living in these times. It's awesome to serve a mighty Elohim. And we're going all the way to Revelation 22. We'd love to have you go through it with us. Get into your local communities. Reach out. Be a part of your local community. Work. Yahuwah says he baraks the work of our hands. Work. Don't be lazy. Be productive. Bring Yahuwah your best efforts every day. That's my encouragement. Yahushua came to give us abundant life. Abundant chai. Be the best you can be. We need to be freed from addictions. We need to seek Yahuwah for that freedom. There's addictions to substances, and there are addictions to processes. A process addiction or behavior addiction is a type of addiction in which a person compulsively and uncontrollably engages in a naturally rewarding non-drug related behavior, even when this behavior negatively impacts their relationships, career, or health. Common manifestations of process addiction include sex addiction, compulsive gambling, video game addiction, binge eating disorder, internet addiction, and shopping addiction. While process addiction is not caused by the consumption of foreign chemicals, it is similar to drug addiction in that they both operate through hijacking the body's natural reward and pleasure systems. In other words, an addiction to heroin and an addiction to gambling are nearly indistinguishable at the level of the brain. The top 4 process addictions are sex addiction, compulsive gambling, binge eating, and internet addiction. So just a constant searching for stimulus, more information, more information, more information. It's not seeking the Father. It's not seeking his word. It's not bringing his word in and letting the Ruach HaKodesh fill us up with his word with the living water. We're filling ourselves up with other things. So it's idolatry. That's what it is. And at the level that people are becoming addicted, they are slaves to what they serve, to what they engage with. If you need a sister, we're here. If you need a brother, we have a couple of brothers here as well. There's many on Facebook. They're few and far between. Some of them are excellent teachers. Others are men or women. You're going to have to be aware of the wolves in sheep's clothing. There's a lot of them that have really smooth talking tongues with their charisma for people to just fawn all over them, but you really need to be aware of those that are teaching falsehood, are involved in drugs, involved in sexual sins and lust. And be aware, if you hear people saying this, you want to be aware. We need to stand for righteousness. The hour's far too late to allow people to love on their sins and not live righteously. Don't give them your time. Cut them off. That's what the word says, right? That's got to be cut out. Don't make room for that. Don't make room for evil. Don't lie with evil. Don't throw your flag in with evil. Live righteously, and where you can sow into ministries that are walking in righteousness, they're seeking Yahuwah. They are seeking to restore and to call the lost sheep of Israel back. Call Ephraim back, the 10 northern tribes. Thank you for spending some time with us. I just wanted to invite you to check out our channel. Enjoy what we bring each week. We're seeking the lost sheep from the house of Israel. We're calling people back to the Father. We're sharing his word. We're studying his word together. We bring you guys a Shabbat study every week. And we'd love for you to join us and be in fellowship with us. If you've not seen Identity Crisis on this channel, we ask you to watch it. I've seen it 5 times and I've transcribed it. It's still the very best video that I've seen out there for a 101 version. We ask you to just study through it. It's going to take you 3 hours. Go ahead and study through it. The Total Lunar Eclipse. It's the last one we're going to have total until March 14, 2025. Yahuwah is awesome. Bind yourselves to him, love him, and pray to him and watch him meet your needs. Watch him love on you. As you covenant with him, he will always be the greater, more trustworthy in the covenant. But just bind yourself to him, serve him, read his word. We recommend a Restored Name translation, Hallelujah Scriptures. I actually have 2. There's one that's large print, and it doesn't have Hebrew in it. And I was looking at that today, and I thought, wow, how refreshing, the letters are so big. But we also have the English Hebrew Hallelujah Scriptures, and that one's really fascinating because it has every verse in the Hebrew and with the vowel point so that we can speak it, we can enunciate the words. If you can sow into this ministry, we greatly appreciate it. There will be donation information in the description. Please sow into the ministries of those who serve Yahuwah, who are standing for righteousness, no drugs, no sexual lust and perversions, just the people that are walking in righteousness with Yahuwah and bringing the word of Yahuwah. They are living for Yahuwah. They bring their best efforts to serve Yahuwah. May Yahuwah be with you, and just watch him be awesome in your life. We're going to Revelation 22. Please get involved with your local communities. You're going to need each other. Do what you can to serve your community. Help a farmer. Develop relationships that you're going to need. You're going to need for survival. We've had it told to us that hard times are coming, and we're going all the way to Revelation 22. So Please, please serve Yahuwah. Find out about his feast days, his Shabbat. Keep those. Learn his calendar. If you need any help learning the calendar, we're here. We want to help you learn the calendar. May Yahuwah be with you and bring you shalom. May he bring an end to all wickedness on this earth and bring his righteous sovereign reign to the earth. Yahuwah be with you. Shalom.